song at this time of year that we sing, "Oh Beautiful for Spacious Skies, for Amber Waves of Grain," and we sing it today at the offertory. No one can create the beauty of the skies. The colors, the swirls, the changes, and the stars are so numerous they cannot be counted. God knew that when God told Abram, "Your offspring will be more numerous than the stars." Abram came from Ur in present-day Iraq. He was not a white man. Neither was Jesus. And we sing, "America, America, God shed his grace on thee." The woman who penned this poem was Catherine Lee Bates. She wrote the poem while on a trip from Massachusetts to Colorado, and she was extolling the beauty of that trip. She was a professor at Wesley College. She was also an activist, writing for and about women's issues, the underprivileged, the lost, the forsaken, and the abolition of slavery. She wrote at the end of the 1800s, the early 1900s. She had an early novel called Rose and Thorn, and this incorporated poor and working class women as characters to teach readers about social reform. She also popularized the concept of Mrs. Claus. I learned this from Wiki. She wrote the poem Goody Santa Claus on a Sleigh Ride. Now, Goody Santa Claus is Mrs. Claus, and in this story, she's the real organizer of Christmas Eve, which is, by the way, 171 days from now. But I digress. The song continues, "And crown thy good with brotherhood." I recently listened to an audiobook, "The Color of Compromise, The Truth About the American Church's Complicity in Racism" by Jim Tisby. It's a powerful book about racial injustice and a call to actions for Christians to learn and understand how we, Christians, have worked against racial justice. A reviewer wrote, "The Color of Compromise is both enlightening and compelling, telling a history we either ignore or just don't know. Equal parts painful and inspirational, it details how the American church has helped create and maintain racist ideas and practices, condoning practices that separate and divide rather than embrace and include." The author wrote mainly about major Protestant churches such as Baptists, Methodists, and Presbyterians. Makes me proud to be Episcopal. And we have Bishop Curry as our presiding bishop. Bishop Curry notes in his autobiography that both sides of his family were descended from slaves and sharecroppers in North Carolina and Alabama. He was born in Maywood, Illinois, but went to school in Buffalo, New York. I came from Buffalo, New York. He told a story one time when he preached here in Wilkes-Barre, and it was about when his father and mother, who were not his father and mother at the time, they were dating, and they went to an Episcopal church. And so the woman went to an Episcopal church regularly. The man was Baptist. And he decided to go to church with her. She kept, begging him and asking him, come to church with me. So he finally did. What amazed him was everyone in that church, and this would have been in the 1940s or 50s or 60s, probably the 60s, everyone in that church received from the same cup. And Bishop Curry's father was absolutely amazed and astounded that everyone received from the same cup. He said, "That's where I'm going to go to church." But today we are still not in a state of brotherhood. We still separate people by race, lifestyle, gender, economic value, and status. We refuse to care for children who are forced to sleep on concrete floors with no one to hug them. We refuse to look at why people come to this country, which is so beautiful in so many ways, and yet it can be ugly in other ways. The hymn invites us to seek God, to mend thine every flaw, and confirm our souls in self-control. I admit to having flaws. In a racially divided nation with profound rightness on both sides, the flaws can be many. I remember my mother saying when I was well into my adult years that my father kept moving us out from inner city Buffalo to the country because the blacks were moving in. I didn't know that. So indirectly, I learned segregation and separation and inequality. Jamar Tisby asks readers to look at where they are from a place of love and a desire to fight for a more racially unified church, that no longer compromises what the Bible teaches about human dignity and equality. This call challenges Black and white Christians to stand up now and begin implementing concrete ways for a more equitable and inclusive environment among God's people. And the song continues, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. Tisby pointed out that the slaves loved America at the end of the Civil War when they were freed. They wanted the freedom to have their own farms, their own animals, and emulate the way of life that they saw all around them. But the idea that slaves could be landowners and entrepreneurs and teachers was an idea that slave owners could not tolerate. Many obstacles arose, such as voting rights, redlining, lynching, separate water fountains, back of the bus, and more. This does not sound merciful or gracious or loving to me. Catherine Lee Bates must have had these movements and ideas in her mind and heart when she wrote the poem. I love this hymn. But wait, there's more. The music is special also. It was composed by church organist and choir master Samuel A. Ward at Grace Episcopal Church in Newark, New Jersey. So we're singing a hymn from one of our own. Now the tune came to Mr. Ward while he was on a ferry boat on his way back from Coney Island to New York City on a hot summer day. Supposedly, he was so anxious to capture this tune that was going around in his head, he asked someone for their cuff so he could write down the notes that he was thinking of. Ward's music combined with Bates' poem were first published together in 1910, entitled America the Beautiful. Do you love this song also? Okay. The song's popularity was well established by the time of Bates' death in 1929. And we sing this song today, nearly 100 years later. There's much to be thankful for. There's much to learn about race relations, and there's much to ponder about what it means to be a Christian in America. Jesus says, whoever listens to you listens to me, and whoever rejects you rejects me, and whoever rejects me rejects the one who sent me. When we reject or undermine people who are racially, economically, religiously different, we reject the God who loves everyone and the God who created everything. I close with another poem that says, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. Your wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. I'm grateful to live in America. I'm grateful to worship in this manner where all are welcome. This morning at St. Peter's, we had Latinos with us, so I had to say, todos son bienvenidos. It was wonderful. May the welcome be loving and celebrated in all churches and homes and schools and governments from sea to shining sea, lest we accidentally reject God.